Good morning, everyone. The time being 10 a.m, I declare open the general meeting for the Gladstone Regional Council for Tuesday, the 16th. It says here 16th of September. That is not right. It is Tuesday, the 7th of October, and I'll fix that agenda notice. And welcome to the Bororen Hall, to our council staff, our officers, and of course to the community members that are here as well. It's fantastic to bring our council meetings out into the regions, and of course we have the community forum that will follow this council meeting today. Our first item on the agenda, councillors, is apologies. We have no apologies, all are present. So we'll move to the next item on the agenda, which is our messages of condolence. And Councillor Patrick, I believe you have a message of condolence.
Yeah, I do. Thank you, Mayor Matt. This morning, I just want to give our condolence to Marjorie Spence, born 1928 and lived till 2025. And she lived a life of service, joy and generosity. Born in Toowoomba, Marge began her career as a medical receptionist before moving to Yarroola as a governess, where she met and married Fred Spence in 1956. They spent 35 years on a sheep station near Blackall before Marge relocated to Boyne Island to be closer to her daughters, Susie and Margaret, and her grandchildren and great-grandchildren now. Her passion for nurturing children led her to roles as a kindergarten teacher and manager of the Blackall Students' Hostel. She volunteered tirelessly at schools, supported P&C committees, and was active in both the Blackall and Tenham Sands community. Marge gave generously of her time supporting Meals on Wheels, donating blood, and serving on the church and community committees. Guided by her faith, she was a welcome presence at the Tenham Sands Uniting Church and a dedicated volunteer at church events and thrift shops. She honoured her husband's military service through lifelong support of the RSL, earning life membership with the Blackall RSL Women's Auxiliary and continuing her involvement in Boyne Tenham. For 14 years, Marge brought joy to residents at Bindery Lodge with music, poetry and laughter. Her legacy lives on in the countless lives she touched, with every story, every smile and every act of kindness done in her memory. Forever loved and forever remembered.
Yeah. Councillors, do we have any further messages of condolence? Then we'll move to the next item on the agenda, which is prior notifications of conflicts of interest. Do we have any prior notifications? I have a prior notification in G 8.1, Notice of Motion, Strategic Acquisition of Land from Clava Limited, which has previously been resolved by Council, where I will remain in the room for the discussion but will not vote, and will hand over the chair to the Deputy Mayor at the time. The next item on the agenda, councillors, is the mayoral statement on current issues, and I'd like to start by acknowledging the Turkey Beach Community Forum that was held on the 17th of September. It's been a few weeks since our last council meeting, being 5 Tuesdays in the month. Our Priceless Past, of course, was held at the Gladstone Regional Art Gallery Museum on the 17th as well. What a fantastic night that was. On the 19th, we had the Gladstone RSL Anzac mural celebration in Tank Street, and I'm sure you'll all agree that's fantastic artwork there by Morris Green. On the 20th was the Calliope Youth Festival. Thank you, Councillors Churchill and Patrick, for attending that one. We had the Multicultural Festival Day at the Marina Parklands, and a number of councillors attended that as well. That was on the 21st, and how good is it to see our Multicultural Festival back operational and being successful, no doubt, in our region. Mm-hmm. We had the 25th of the month, we had the citizenship ceremony where we welcomed more than 30 residents. Well, they were already residents of the Gladstone region, but 30 new Australian citizens choosing to make the Gladstone region their home. And on the 27th, it was the wrap-up of the Baffle Creek Family Fishing Festival, of course, in Baffle Creek. What an amazing event that week-long festival is. And on the same day, we had the Captain Creek Community Forum at the Sport and Recreation Grounds. On the 2nd of October, we had our Employees Anniversary Lunch, and thank you to all of our employees for their many years of service. But I'd like to particularly acknowledge two of our long service staff members, Vicky Hankinson and Dean Batterham, who have both served our community and council for just over 40 years. Thank you to Dean and Vicky. Coming up, of course, we have the opening of the Calliope High School, which I thought was already open, but it's not. It's been operational for a long time, but the official opening will be happening tomorrow. And of course, the Welcoming Cities Summit is happening on the 9th. Mindcare are having their Community Connect on the 9th as well. And of course, in Turkey Beach, there's a seniors function at the hall on the 11th, which is all part of Seniors Month. And there's so many activities happening right across the region. Hats off to Brian, Kylie and the team and everyone for putting such an amazing calendar together. And Jacqueline, of course. Make sure you check out all the events on Council's website for everything happening for Seniors Month. And on the 12th is the RACQ Capricorn Helicopter Rescue event at the Marina Parklands from 9:30 till 12. I'll now move to the next item on the agenda, which is G2.1, the confirmation of the general meeting
Happy
minutes
to move, Mayor.
for the 16th of September. Thank you, Councillor Churchill. Seconded, Councillor Cameron. Any business arising? Put the motion. All in favour? Motion's carried. Thank you. We have no deputations this morning, councillors. As I said, we do have our community forum shortly after this council meeting. So the first officer's report is G4.1, Renewable Energy Community Benefits Sharing Policy, and I'll hand over to the Acting General Manager of Finance, Governance and Risk. I was going to hand over to the Acting General Manager of Finance, Governance and Risk, Kim Martin. Welcome.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Normally a policy would be presented by the General Manager of Finance, Governance and Risk. However, Kim has been on leave for the last week and we weren't sure whether she'd be back. She's been quite ill, so I volunteered to present this one as we've been involved with you. So Carly Quinn, General Manager of People and Strategy, and we also have with us today our Strategic Project Specialist, Erickson Noakes, who's led the coordination internally and externally on this policy. So in November 22, Gladstone Regional Council launched a bold 10-year economic transition roadmap. It was the first of its kind in Australia, and it set out a clear goal to help our region move towards renewable energy and to make sure our communities, especially those in regional and remote areas, benefited from the change. Today, we're presenting a policy that helps deliver on that goal. Over the past 3 years, Council has worked really hard and advocated strong for our region. We've pushed for greater investment, clearer expectations and better outcomes for our communities. And it's made a difference because in recent changes to the state legislation now require renewable energy developers to complete social impact assessments and negotiate community benefit agreements with local councils. This new renewable energy community benefits sharing policy that we're presenting today is a major step forward. It gives Council the tools to make sure agreements with developers are fair, transparent and focused on delivering value for our community. We've worked closely with other councils, industry partners, yourselves to shape the policy so it reflects what our region needs and expects. Council now has the chance to review the policy and yourselves to shape the policy so it reflects what our region needs and expects. With your endorsement today, we can commence implementation straight away. Gladstone is one of the nation's industrial powerhouses. We're helping to build the future and our community deserves to share in that success. This policy makes sure that we can do just that.
Yeah, well done, Carly, and thank you for working with our neighbouring councils on this policy as well, because obviously it's not just our region that is impacted, it's a number of other regions, particularly our western neighbours. Very important policy, councillors. I'm sure you all have questions. Councillor Wagner.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you for getting on to this. I mean, obviously with the number of developments that are proposed for the area, it's great to see that we've got this in place. What I would like to know is I'm pretty keen to see some of these funds directed towards biodiversity, particularly in the area of land management, weeds, pig control, particularly in our outlying areas, as well as communities where these particular developments are occurring. I'd like to see them really thought about when the money is allocated. I'm reading the policy. Will this allow that to happen?
Yeah, so I'll share what I believe the policy allows it to happen, and I guess it's up to you to decide, is it enough for you? But the policy definitely indicates that the money must be spent on Council's endorsed strategic priorities. So once a year you have an opportunity to review what those priorities are. We publish those priorities, and also you've got a corporate plan that sets those out over a 5-year period as well. So anything that it does get spent on must align with those priorities. So we need to be making sure that what you're looking for it to be spent on is there. And then you also mentioned spending in particular locations, because obviously right across the region, we're a large region, but a number of these proponents and projects will be based in certain parts of the region. So the policy also allows us to negotiate a spend percentage that must be spent within the certain region versus what would be spent right across the region on, say, greater infrastructure that might benefit the whole region versus something just for those communities. The policy allows for that.
No, it's just one other question then. The strategic priorities, I know we did that about this time last year, I think it was. Do you know when we're due to do that again?
Yeah, so we're commencing our corporate planning process now, as you know, so that gives us a lot of great content and feeds into what your priorities are over the next 5 years. And then each year when we endorse the budget, we endorse the annual strategic priorities. So during the budget process, which actually commences pretty soon, we also look at your annual strategic priorities as well.
And in terms of distribution of funds from these developments, when are they likely to come through, do you think?
That's the $1 million question. So this policy allows us to cost recover from the very first instance. So when we're talking to proponents, we start investing ratepayer resources, as in people resources, in having these conversations. So there's the cost recovery feed for those initial conversations, so that will be covered. But the actual revenue, which is for the community benefit, really doesn't happen until these projects get off the ground. And in some instances, that could be 3 to 4 years from when we start negotiating, or it could actually be never if the project doesn't get up.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you. I've got a few councillors lining up. Councillor Churchill, then Holzheimer.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. Look, congratulations to everybody that's been involved in putting the policy together. Remember, policy is like our road rules on which way we're going to go. So I've got two questions. One appropriately is coming back to the pertinent point that relates to the proponents, and we've met with some of the proponents, is they still have some level of flexibility outside the parameters of our policy to do what they wish to do themselves. Is that correct?
Yes, and we would expect that the majority of proponents would still have some form of community benefit fund. A lot of them have indicated to us that they may still do, you know how they have the $2,000, $5,000 funds that they allocate to smaller community groups. We would certainly encourage that. We know how important that is to our smaller community groups, but we also know from previous transitions that we've been through and major industry investments we've had in town, that those smaller investments don't actually land the bigger social infrastructure changes that our community needs when it comes to health, housing and some of the other priorities. So this allows that balance. We get to negotiate with them on where that critical funds should be spent, but we would still expect them to have those smaller targeted community funds. That is up to them though, they're not mandated to have that.
So consequently, the community organisations or the community themselves localised should be proactive rather than reactive in waiting just to work with the proponents. My second question, and as much as it aggrieves me to say it, I want to be the eternal optimist that the policy can work and will work. But I suppose some of us having gone through the saga and the process of the Gladstone Foundation, and we saw what happened there, making note that this policy effectively provides clear direction, it achieves the intended outcomes, balances community needs with legislative compliance. So could you just give me an indication, or give everybody an indication today, that policy, the proponents need to comply with the policy, and if they don't?
Yeah. So I guess for those here today, what the policy means is that the community will need to do a social impact assessment for any project that they're coming to town. They bring that social impact assessment to council, and then we are mandated now by legislation to negotiate a community benefit agreement with that proponent. And this policy gives us the parameters on that. That is part of legislation. Unless we have an agreed negotiated certified agreement, they cannot proceed to the next steps and get their development approval. So their development approval with the state is based on us saying, yes, we are comfortable, or they can't proceed to that next step. So from the first point of view, that's how we have that governance. At the latter end of it, so let's say go forward 3 years down the track and they're now producing and we are now getting our revenue, there's probably less. I'll look to my expert here for some guidance, but there's probably less governance at the other end from the state on how we can confirm that we get this revenue. But our policy is very firm, And I believe our community expectations will be very firm on this, that this revenue will come and it will be spent where it needs to be spent.
So what you're indicating there is a compliance course of action that can be taken.
A community benefit agreement is a legally binding agreement between
that's
council
what I
and the
wanted.
opponent.
That's what I wanted to hear,
Yeah.
legally binding with the proponent between Gladstone Regional Council.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
Or they can't proceed to the next stage with the Queensland Government.
Yeah.
Because they have the planning controls now.
Well, you understand where I'm coming
Oh,
from.
yeah.
We don't want history to repeat itself. You know, tell us they're going to give us all the bells and whistles, and then appropriately, then when they should stump up, they don't. But thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Churchill. Councillor Holsheimer.
Beautiful, thank you. I'm really excited to see how this actually plays out, and I know that it's not going to be as quick to see implemented as we might expect as well, because as you said, it's going to take time for people to still go through that process. My first question is, how many people or how many proponents are actually waiting to start this process with us at the moment? Yeah.
So we have 3 formally recognised in notice of intent received by council. So under a notice of intent and under the legislation, that's where the proponent has initiated formally the process of undertaking a social impact assessment and eventually negotiate a CPA. So we have 3 proponents actively doing that. We do have more proponents in the region that are having conversations about what council's processes are. So should council adopt the policy today, it supports the business to essentially have a stronger position in negotiating that process with those proponents.
Okay, beautiful. The other question is for community, how are they going to know what's happening with this process? Because I understand there's a point in time where things happen in the background that is just regular business, and then there's a point where it comes to their attention. When is community actually going to be aware of the process, and how are they going to find updates on where particular proponents are at in the journey as well?
So we would have our own business processes of informing the community as part of our normal communications to our region. Council is actually required to publish the executed community benefits agreements on our website. So we would be building those pages on our website as, I suppose, our primary point of information, that the community can access. But we also have an implementation plan attached to this policy where we have various methods of communicating more broadly the outcomes of this work. So that will be published on the website, and we can also explore other opportunities for communicating. So we may use Council's Conversations platform as another area where the community can access information about the policy outcomes.
Yeah, excellent, thank you.
Do you mind if I just add to that? The process that the proponent undertakes to do the social impact assessment is fully theirs, and they obviously need to do all of that consultation. We certainly will, through our implementation plan, look at how we can make visible the different phases. I think that's a really, I like the way you've languaged that I think we can support the community, but it will be up to that proponent to do that engagement through that SIA.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Patrick.
Thank you for so much hard work that has gone into this, particularly that local government has had to pivot so quickly with this state legislation that we have had to do. It's no small feat, and I really want to thank our team and my fellow councillors for the effort that has been put into it thus far. Just for transparency, Bart, I would like to know, we have dollar figures put against solar, wind, standalone battery energy storage systems, pumped hydro energy. Can you just explain how we came up with those figures? Just so we all are on the same page.
Yep, and you'll explain that better than me.
Those figures were recommendations under the state government's release of the guidelines, the social benefit guidelines. And the Queensland Government has provided those as recommendations based on their investigations into the New South Wales legislative structure around benefit sharing. So they've essentially recommended to Queensland councils that if you are exploring these dollar figures, this is what has happened in the nation or in other states. So given that there's a lot of trial and test around those costings already, the policy recommends we adopt those. It does not mean that council may choose to reduce or increase those, and we can negotiate those amounts with the proponents if the proponent brings that matter up with us. But based on what that policy offers, it's based on what we understand that have happened in other legislative jurisdictions, so such as New South Wales and Victoria.
So with that, if we were to adopt this policy today, when would the review happen? Like, is it yearly, 2 yearly, 5 yearly, or as just appropriate?
The policy has a default review of every 2 years, but council can choose to request the policy to be reviewed at any time at its discretion.
Awesome. And just one more question, and it's probably a little bit of a segue from Councillor Wagner's question. Given that council doesn't have a defined list of social investment priorities, will we be touching over that with our strategic direction? Is that when we will be doing that? Because I think there is a big difference between investment in built structures versus social infrastructure. They kind of work hand in hand, and from experience, I think most of us have felt through some of the GLNG developments and things like that. I felt, Sean, yeah, sorry.
LNG, not GLNG.
Yeah, sorry. Yes.
Proponent as opposed to threat.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The social investment wasn't probably as good as it could have been, so I'm just wanting to avoid that going forward if we can.
Yeah. I'll give you an answer when you
Thank
can.
you.
If you like. I think this council, directly after that recent major investment in gas in the community, certainly asked us, what are we going to do to be ready and prepared so that this doesn't happen again? So the 10-year economic transition roadmap was a big part of that, as well as the subsequent plans and investment. We've got an investment prospectus, we've got the social infrastructure. Sorry, what's the title of the document? Annual strategic priorities, but we also have the social infrastructure plan research that we did as well. All of those documents definitely help us to negotiate with proponents. We do have a very clear understanding of what our community needs are. What we don't have, which I think you're referring to, is that wish list or that shopping list for proponents. So previous council, that was a determined decision not to have that shopping list. But I think, obviously, I've heard it from a couple of councillors now, so we do think the right way to handle that is through the corporate planning process, which we're about to commence. And if that is something that council feel we do need to have moving forward or to focus on, that is a priority we can put in there for officers to deliver for you. It is a conscious decision not to have that list at the moment, but to have a very clear view of where investment should be, what sectors and what needs to happen, but also considering that their SIA themselves will actually tell us where the gaps are going to be. So the point of the document they give us is it should say, our project's actually going to impact this community and this community in this way and this way. And then we negotiate to say, well, this is what we think you should do to close that gap or to stop that impact.
Yeah. Okay, before I go to Councillor Cameron, I just want to add to that. The discussion will be important depending on the location of the project. You can't have a project in Yarwun, for example, and the Yarwun community not benefit, or Mirimbale or Bororen or wherever the project is. There has to be some kind of, so the social, it's going to be hard during that process, but I'm looking forward to that conversation because you need a list of basic fundamental social infrastructure projects, but then there'll be others that'll be relevant to the local community. Anyway,
Sorry, Mr Mayor, I just wanted to add, one of the challenges, and it's obviously something we can work through anything, but is the timing. So having this wish list and then saying, okay, this proponent has agreed to provide X, but then knowing that it might not happen for another 4 years, another proponent may come through earlier, could have provided it, or it may never happen and it doesn't get provided. So again, things we've got to work through, but it's never as simple as it sounds, is it?
It's just more that the point is being made that there is a lot to be considered. This is very new to local government, and these are things that we're having to review and to keep abreast of.
Yeah, thank you.
thank you. Still a few councillors lining up. Councillor Cameron, Muscat, then McClintock.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. You sort of touched on where I was going to go, was to do with the social impact assessment. That's completely separate to this document. Yeah.
Yes, that will be their
Okay,
document.
so this comes into place after the social impact assessment has been done. Happy with that, and I think the policy is very, very good. It's generic enough to give a little bit of levity, but there's enough there for us to focus on. Now, as far as the social impact assessment is concerned, who determines who makes up the panel that determines what the social impact assessment will be?
So their social impact assessment is a document that is generally done by mostly probably an external provider. Most of the proponents would get a consultant. That would include community engagement. We are certainly, we have frameworks and tools internally to support proponents when they come to town to help them to understand how best to engage with our community, who they should be talking to, all of that. But then them doing it will be up to them. Their consultants will generally come back to them with a report that says, if you go ahead with this project, these are the impacts that you'll have in the community. They'll obviously negotiate that and be comfortable, then provide it to us. And that's when they'll be saying, we believe these are what the impacts are. So it's not a community panel or councillors or anyone would not be involved in that. We are consulted. We are one of the groups that they will engage with, and we certainly will advocate very strongly for what we believe their impacts will be. That's not the point that we advocate for the solutions. That's the point where we advocate for what we believe some of the impacts of their project will be in our communities.
I'm just, where I'm coming from is to make sure that we have enough local content in that process.
Yes.
Because you'll have situations where you've got a project going on that might be in a neighbouring LGA. And it might be one of these border situations where geographically LGA is impacted, but it's in the next doors.
Yes.
So who makes up those? And you see where there's a difficulty there?
So social impact assessments have no borders, so they will, if the project could be in someone else's council space, but it'll identify that one of our communities is impacted. Then if that's the case, then every local government who has any form of impact from their SIA has to negotiate a CBA, a community benefit agreement. So a proponent may end up having 3 community benefit agreements negotiated before they can even go to the state to get approval. So we're forced to have a part in that negotiation. And if we don't believe that the SIA has been well consulted enough or it's missed major impacts, then we have an opportunity to say that we're not going to negotiate your CBA, we feel like you're missing an impact.
Who determines how many people are involved in this assessment?
That's completely up to the proponents. So I guess we ultimately determine, because we ultimately determine if we accept what they're presenting to us as an SIA.
But we have that ability to navigate that?
Yes, so the terms are definitely negotiate the community benefit agreement, and if we believe there are, it might be that, like, worst case scenario, we don't believe it's being consulted well, we might ask them to redo it or consider something else. Best case scenario, we might just agree there's an impact missing and agree something in the CBA that closes that gap.
Best case scenario is they give us a CBA that
Sorry,
because they've done the right consultation with the community and the council's happy with what they've done.
True.
So that's
Yes.
I look forward to seeing all of that.
Yeah, me too.
Councillor Muscat.
Thank you. I I don't want to repeat some of the same things that people said, but I do want to thank you for all the work that you've done, especially you, Erickson. It has been a bit of a ride since the release, the passing of the new legislation, which has given us the opportunity to have something like a CBA where proponents make a commitment directly to those regions before they commence their project. So I guess that is also something that us as a council have been advocating for a while, including the need for community input when it comes to solar projects, which they did for wind but not for solar. So we will see what happens with batteries coming in the future, which they might or might not be included, but that also adds another layer of complexity in that. So I have a couple of questions. I'll also wanted to just note that there's a couple of things that were important to achieve with this policy, which is beautifully written and has all the details that need to have. First of all, the fact that yes, some of these approvals or the commencement of the projects might not actually ever come to fruition. So we are going to be engaging in work, using resources from engagement in social impact assessments to CBAs to all of the conversations we constantly have through our economic development space. So this policy is actually allowing us to get some sort of monetary funds to offset those use of resources that ratepayers are paying for at the moment. Because we did do this without any extra resources. So up to today, we had to scramble between our resourcing internally to make this happen in kind of record time. I also wanted to, and that wasn't just a couple of people, but as you said in the report, there was a lot of people involved from all our departments, from planning to economic development to customer engagement to everybody around, well, governance of course, and everyone else I'm missing in between. But and also I understand that there was a lot of consultation from people like the LGAQ, QREC, CQ-ROC also, which are a number of those members are also in the same situation. And we have had many conversations around how we can sort of align, but also make sure that we address our unique needs for each of those councils, because all of us are different, but we also want to make sure that we are welcome to development and economic contributions and growth. So there is also, I love the very clear part that has the exclusions in the policy, where this isn't some things that will replace, say, development application conditions or different things such as, building new roads or doing new trunk infrastructure, which are normally conditions of the DAs. So the other thing I wanted to just confirm, because I don't know if we were exactly sure or certain in the conversation which is had, is that the policy is asking us to have a separate, so in page 2 at the top, so to complement the proponent's contributions to council CBF, the proponent will also deliver a community benefit sharing program. So we are asking them to also do that. We're not putting a figure to it, because obviously it depends on how big projects are or how willing they are to do so. Plus, I think we have that great balance there between encouraging someone to do something but not telling them what to do. So, which is not the message I think we want to send anyway. We want to work together with these proponents to make sure that everyone benefits. So that's also not included in the CBF. So we've been able to get a 5% contribution, which I'm happy to, I think I have discussed it with the officers, and I think that's kind of the top that it's been accepted across the board. We can go lower or higher. I'm comfortable with that right now. So, because again, we don't want to make this policy prohibited for people to come and do business here. We also have the community funds, like I just mentioned, and the direct contribution. So for me, it's ticking those three very important points, because as you said, Carly, these projects might happen or might not happen. DA, an approved DA does not mean a construction and operation of anything, anywhere, from housing to renewable energy projects. So, and that's important for people to understand, because it doesn't mean that because we agree to a CBA, community benefit agreement, that tomorrow we having, the output per kilowatt in our bank account. No, the only thing we will have is that 5%, which will offset some of our costs to administer all of this work. And on that, that's my last question, which is related to the fees. There's a fee. It says in here that fees and charges will apply to proponents for council to participate in the SIA processes, considering blah, 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 and the council fees will be in the fee and charges register. So could you, do we have that fee already, or is it going to be a new fee?
Yeah, that'll be a new fee.
Okay.
And I might just clarify all of that fees, just so everybody's clear, because it is so complex. So once a year you have the opportunity to endorse your fees. So that team are working at the moment on what that cost recovery might look like. The first year we'll be able to make our best possible estimate on the types of the amount of internal resources that will go into these negotiations, but then obviously we'll be able to refine that in future years as we know what these things do cost. So you'll endorse that fee. That is definitely money that we will receive at the very beginning to help cover our costs. The 5% though, and I'm going to look to Eric to make sure I'm making the right comment here, I just want to clarify, that 5% doesn't come about unless the project actually does go ahead as well. So the 5% as well as their contribution for the community, those are the two things that may or may not happen or at a certain time. The cost recovery fee that you endorse every year will be charged at the point of commencement of engagement.
Yeah, no, that's a great clarification, because and maybe something that we can consider here is maybe to waive those fees for those ones that want to enter into an agreement that they're not supposed to by legislation, because I think the success of this policy, we'll see it when somebody comes to our door and says, I want to enter into an agreement with you even though I don't have to, but because it's the right thing to do. So, anyway, you're right. But it is sort of, it gives a separation from those ones that have to and those ones that want to, because it's the right thing to do. And we have a number of them, like battery projects at the moment, or other projects that might not be even related to renewable energy, but people that come to do business here. So anyway, that was it. And thank you very much, and I'd love to move the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. I'll take a second before I go to Councillor McClintock for a second, okay? Seconded, Councillor McClintock. Now you have questions?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've got probably the first question is, we talk about the CBA process has to be conducted, has to be engaged with before they can proceed with their development. Obviously, then there's a process to how that agreement then is outworked, and that funding is then seen by us. That doesn't all happen in an immediate moment. My question is, what happens? We've given them the approval, they've gone through the process, and what leverage or what assurances do we have in place as far as legislation, guidelines, to make sure that that actually comes to fruition? It's not just a piece of paper that says that we'll do nice things. Actually, nice things happen down the line, particularly on projects where maybe they're going to take a couple of years to get off the ground. I know we're discussing funds and all those sorts of things and how that works, but there's a gap I can see between the agreement and those funds being received. What do we have in place? Can they not turn dirt until that funds are in our fund? I don't know what leverage we have there, I guess, is my first question.
I think I can do a better job at answering that than I did for Councillor Churchill when he asked before. So the earlier part of the process is legislated, and the state will not give approvals. Once the approval process is all by state, so we don't have any of that control. But what we do have is that community benefit agreement, which is a legal binding document. So that's one of the, once we have the policy endorsed at whatever point that is, whether it's today, we can then go and commence drafting all of the other legal documents that sit behind it. And we've got a lot of collaboration work with LGAQ and the other councils to make sure that we have quite strong, legally strong community benefit agreement documents, so that we do have teeth, I guess, around this legislation.
Yeah, and that's what I guess. I've got all the confidence in the world they'll do the right thing, but I'm very curious what those teeth are, because I don't see much in the legislation as far as our enforcement ability to get that across the line. So I don't know whether we can do special rates or whatever to ensure that those things come through if people haven't followed through. I'm not sure where we stand on that, but
we'll consider all of that when
just ensuring that there is that proper follow through. You mentioned that there's a draft guidelines and CBA agreement from LGAQ that's just out at the moment. I think their official one's coming through. I'm assuming, based off your comments before about the New South Wales and the state guidelines as well, we've aligned well. My question is there anything in our current policy that has intentionally deviated from those guidelines that we've done? And if so, what would that be?
Nothing that comes to mind. The policy very much aligns to the parameters that the legislation, the regulation and the guidelines have set. Council can obviously deviate from that if it wishes to, but given that we are at such an infant journey with this policy, the strength of the policy is really complementing all of those regulations that were required to meet. So if Council feels that it's not strong enough, we can bring the policy back in, review it to strengthen it or increase the strategic intent that Council wants to achieve with the policy. But the policy is certainly nothing less than what the guideline is offering. Those monetary contributions are described as minimum requirements for the proponent. It would be amazing if the proponent offers more than what we prescribe. It doesn't harm us from asking the question, though, based on our understanding of their social impact once they've completed that process.
Yeah, great.
And whilst we haven't deviated, it was really strong intent from Council to make sure that there was investment in both the specific community being impacted as well as the whole region. So I think yours is probably, our policy probably goes further than those guidelines.
Yeah. Right, and the final thing was, you mentioned just before us not really having a shopping list, and I hear Mayor's point on making sure that we've got localised investment identified in that process. To me, I want to make sure that community engagement side of things is still firmly on their shoulders. We are not running around asking people what they want on their behalf by any means, which I know the policy does do, but I guess when you say we don't have a shopping list, I think we do. We have our strategic priorities, and to me that is the conversation we have every year as far as what we actually want to see for the broader community and making sure that it aligns with that. But probably further to that, is there a way for us to incorporate our asset management stuff? I can't remember what the actual terminology was, but basically the new fandangle thing that's going to identify what needs to be done first. Is there a way for us to incorporate culverts that need to be done as a matter of priority, or identified things that through that process we are actually prioritising the priorities that our other programs and things are identifying along the way, so that it's not just us going, I think I want that bridge. It's actually identified through data-driven infrastructure. Is there a way to align that asset management stuff with this?
Yeah, definitely. So you're talking about some of the critical infrastructure that we need to replace regardless of any of these things, which may or may not be impacted further by some of these projects. So I think we do have a really clear view of both. So we do have a system internally that shows us what those prioritised critical infrastructure investments are. What we do to date is we publish and have a very public version of the strategic priorities, which are often advocacy and social impact kind of projects. We probably don't publish the critical infrastructure ones. So we have been talking about through the next budget process and through the corporate plan process, how do we make those equally as visible and equally priorities so that you can actually choose from both? Yes.
And I guess to me, those are big infrastructure and investment opportunities. But I guess my question about the asset register is around things like Bororen's toilet block is needing work, and it's identified in our asset management as a high priority. To me, that's a localised way for them to give us an investment that actually rewards the close community, rather than just asking where do you want more parks or more grass that needs to be then maintained and all those sorts of things. So,
I definitely think we can facilitate that.
yeah. Cool, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. I've got a few councillors lining up again. I've got Councillor Davis, Wagner and then Churchill.
Thank you. And I think just carrying, forwarding on from Councillor Muscat's, with the 5%, do we think that is enough to cover that contribution?
Yes, it is. I can't guarantee because it's hard to know exactly how many we'll get each year and how many will land, but based on the information that we do know, so we've done a lot of modelling on, what might go ahead, what might not go ahead. We believe at this stage that will be suffice to cover the resources that are required to manage it.
Okay. And the other thing I didn't notice in the policy, I see here the first year contribution is to be made within 30 days prior to the first day of commercial operation and thereafter. And then there's some wording there about any interest that will be gained will stay in the fund. But is there anything to cover late payments, like an interest, on late payments? That's something to ensure that they actually do pay the payments.
So at the policy level, we probably wouldn't put that kind of detail in there. We can if you elect to, but certainly within the agreement that we reach, so the community benefit agreement will articulate all of that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Wagner.
Yeah, so listening to everyone here, I suppose I get back to the community. I'm just wondering, I know the motion's been put forward and seconded, but I'm wondering whether we reword the actual motion to, I suppose, reflect that we really do want community input. We don't want to be going out and asking for wish lists necessarily, but it has been identified that we have broad stroke goals and objectives. And I would like us to be really mindful of what things do those community need or want, not that the money goes into our coffers for us to spend as council expenditure. Like, I want this to go back into the community. So I'm wondering whether, and I know the motion's been put forward, but option 2 would allow us to take out the word real, because what is real? I love the intent of it, but it's not really definite. I mean, it's a surplus word, so create social, economic and environmental benefit. I don't think it changes it. Otherwise it just sounds like we've put it in there to make it sound great. And I'm just wondering whether we put in the word community input into it. So for the community would be create social, economic and environmental benefit for the community guided by social impact assessment and community input. So it could be either purposeful, relevant, locally based, something like that.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Can I just clarify where you're talking so I can follow and make sure I do?
So if you have a look at the wording of option
Page
1.
7.
Yeah, so
.1.
Gotcha, okay.
Yeah, we'll get Councillor Wagner finished first, but
yeah, so
that's
in 1,
difficult without a screen to see what this
sorry,
amendment
mine's
is.
just followed off. Create real social, economic and environmental benefits for the community. So just change it to create social, economic and environmental benefits for the community, guided by social impact assessment and community input.
So the current
I know it's
recommendation.
legislated, and I know they have to do their own engagement, but when we have had proponents come in and discuss how they're engaging at the moment, I'm not convinced that they're actually looking at the specific community that it does apply to.
If I may clarify, Councillor Wagner, referencing community input attached to the policy denotes that it's council that's seeking that community input?
Okay. Well, if we're going to be allocating money that essentially belongs to, I suppose, proponents for the community, do we not have an obligation to make sure that we do get the proper community input? I don't know, I'm just putting it out.
Is that not our role?
If the opponents don't do it, then we will. And they will be forced to do it by this new legislation. I hear what you're trying to say, and I think this policy as it stands does that.
If it does do it, that's okay, but I'm just still mindful, I've had four of us councillors have all mentioned this has to still have some community involvement. So I'm not convinced
Agreed.
we're all really on the same page in respect to the administration of this. And I know you guys will do it, it's operational, but I think as long as the intent of this and any guidelines that come under it really does drill down to what those specific communities want, not like that we have a big strategic priority that's a big, I suppose, a big community goal and we're missing out something in that community that they really need. And I think if people are doing a impact assessment and it gets looked at and registered, the people that are looking at it aren't specifically looking at what those communities need. That's our job. So I'm happy to go with it as long as the intent and it is, and it's documented and we are doing the right things. I don't want to see this just as our revenue that we spend, otherwise it's no different than the community fund that wasn't the Gladstone Foundation, let's face it, it wasn't successful.
If I may provide some clarity, the social impact assessment guidelines and supplementary guidelines that the Queensland Government released is very detailed in the process that the proponent must undertake to do the social impact assessment, right down to identifying specific stakeholder groups within all the communities that they actually intend to develop. So there's comfort in that social impact guidelines is attached to the regulation. So effectively, if they are not living into what those guidelines are saying, they can be seen as not meeting the regulation and the legislation. So there's a lot of strength in the guidelines that the state government have released.
I get that, but we have had proponents come in and they're doing engagement in a certain location, but not thinking of where the real stakeholders are because they're not from here. They don't realise, like if you're doing engagement in Bororen, you've got to look at the catchment, not, and we know which one that I'm probably talking about specifically. So the government who's going to endorse it isn't knowing where the catchment is. So then I think that's our job to make sure that our people that are impacted are the benefits of it.
And they will rely on us because if we don't negotiate a community benefit agreement, then that's our signal to the state that we are not comfortable with the engagement that they've done or that we've closed any gaps.
As long as we're catching that, I'm satisfied with it. So thanks for that.
They'll be knocking on my door asking to how they can get their CBA approved, and I'll say, have you engaged with the local community that you intend or would like to build in? And if you haven't, good luck, because you're not going to get through the boardroom. Councillor Churchill, I think we might wrap it up after you.
Thank you, Emma. And in actual fact, your comment is probably a segue and relevant for my question, because I've already asked the question before in relation to the potential for litigation or the legal process. So I suppose this has been a good, healthy discussion, and we've had lots of discussions previously with officers to get to this stage, and I think today it's a bit of a pioneering exercise today. So we're pioneers with a couple of other local governments effectively going, and I think we need to forge forward with a strong level of optimism that we've got our house in order. And I understand, I'll go back to Councillor McClintock, and I suppose Councillor Wagner and others as well, is raising that issue of community need, because I don't want to refer back to the Gladstone Foundation again. It's in the past. What we create forward, or going forward now, has to meet the community needs, and it needs to be legislative compliant. So my point is, appropriately, in amongst all this, LGAQ themselves need to also keep a watching brief on this, because there are only a few local governments that are doing it at this stage, and others, and as we pioneer forward, we don't know where we're going to go, but we need to make sure that we go together in local government land, because at the end of the day, if we'll end up with a divide and conquer. And my other pertinent point is that we do not want to be spending ratepayers' money in the Planning and Environment Court or the Planning and Development Court or any court when we talk about legislative compliance or when I make reference to non-compliance, because that defeats the purpose. that will defeat the purpose of we're spending good ratepayers' money to go and fight a fight to get money to these proponents. So somewhere in amongst it, the LGAQ, and I know you're President, somewhere in amongst that, and I respect that there's a motion on the table, but the LGAQ needs to keep a watching brief on this to make sure that we in local government land go forward in a united front to make sure we meet those community needs. Otherwise, we've defeated the purpose of going out and pioneering a new funding model. Anyway, I'll get off my horse.
That's all right. I'll hop on that horse. Things right near the pony club here. LGAQ is the one who led this, and it is where it is because LGAQ. So we'll be doing more than watching brief. With my hat on as president, we'll be making sure that everything we've recommended today and the councils that are part of these are listened to by not just Queensland Government but proponents. So, Councillor McClintock, you wanted one more comment? And then I'd like to
just further to that, you look good on a pony. The LGAQ has, and it's in the agenda today, have put together an energy and resources advisory group, and part of that conversation is already CBAs and what is happening. There's a lot of representatives from around the entire region, so it's not just an LGAQ from a boardroom in a Brisbane sector. It's actually a wider range of engagement that gives you any comfort as well.
When we forget the community, we've forgotten the principle of the policy. Okay.
Yeah, all right. We have a mover in Councillor Muscat and a seconder in Councillor McClintock. Any further discussion or debate? I'm going to put the motion. All in favour? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you, and thank you, Erickson, and thank you, Carly.
Can I call the division?
You can call a division.
Yes, please.
Division called. All those in favour of the motion? Let the record show that the motion was unanimous. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. We'll move to the next item on the agenda, which is G4.2, Contract and Expenditure Approval for the tender of 109-25 Round Hill Reservoir. And this time I will hand over to the Acting General Manager of Finance, Governance and Risk, Kim Martin.
Thank you. And I'm joined this morning by Kiara Henderson, our Manager of Contracts and Procurement, and Russell Bowden, the Project Manager. Today's report seeks Council's endorsement to award tender 10925 for Round Hill Reservoir to McCosker Contracting. The tender covers both the renewal of the existing Round Hill Reservoir and the construction of a second reservoir to improve resilience in our water network. The recommendation is to accept McCosker's offer, approve the associated expenditure, and authorise the Chief Executive Officer to enter into the contract. This project is critical for enhancing water security and operational safety. It involves two key components. So it's the construction of a new 4 megalitre concrete reservoir and the renewal of the existing 12 megalitre reservoir. 5 submissions were received, 3 of which were conforming offers, and McCosker Contracting was selected based on best value for money, technical capability and strong local representation. The contract value is fully funded within our capital portfolio program, and pending endorsement today, we anticipate awarding the contract in October 2025. Welcome any questions.
Thank you. Great outcome, I think. Any questions, councillors? Are you moving, Councillor Churchill? Seconded.
Happy to move the motion, provided I get a commitment today on when the job will be finished.
No commitment?
Thank you.
Thank you. You can control the weather? Thank you. Seconded, Councillor Wagner. Any questions, comments? Councillor Cameron.
Just a comment on the report itself. Never seen anything so detailed. I think.
Yeah.
You know, I had a gap year, and this just looks totally different to what I
The gap
saw in the previous time. So, in particular, parts of the tender documents where they thought there might be something missing or a little bit light on, it's not been ignored. It's been negotiated out with the tenderer. It's just a brilliant report. Happy to support.
Thank you.
Point of order, Mr Mayor. I can't get a commitment today, but could I get an estimated time of completion of the project? Russell, Kim, to someone. I'm not getting a commitment of a defined date because I can't control Mother Nature. But an estimated time of completion.
We're talking final completion of the project, which includes the construction and the refurbishment, is about 12 months, I think. It's
From today.
From entering the contract.
depending weather, yeah. So
Depending on weather.
yeah, of course. Look, it's quite a lengthy project. The construction of the 4 megalitre reservoir is obviously is going to happen first, and then once that's online, the cutover will happen and the refurbishment will take place. So rough estimate is about 12 months. It's quite lengthy, and there's a lot of moving pieces in there with the post-tension concrete construction as well that could take some wrangling as it goes through, but yeah, roughly 12 months.
Next year's the leap year, you get 366 days. I think.
Or then a day earlier.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Justin. Thanks, Lauren.
Any further questions or comments? Motion's moved and seconded. All in favour? Motion is carried. Councillors, we do have a few more agenda items, but I propose we adjourn the meeting so we can host our community forum. We have a number of members from the community here who are expecting it to start at 11. And if we break down, it'll start exactly on 11. And we can reconvene the meeting after the community forum. So I move that we adjourn the meeting for the community forum and morning tea. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Holzheimer. All in favour? Thank you. The meeting's now adjourned. Welcome back, councillors, officers, and anyone left in the gallery. Thank you for attending our Bororen forum this morning. We'll continue with our general meeting. We've adjourned the meeting. I don't need a motion to re-adjourn, to recommence?
If it's been adjourned?
Yes. Let's just do it anyway.
Yes, you're reopening.
Reopening the meeting. Thank you, Councillor Churchill and Councillor Patrick. All in favour, and that's carried. Can't hurt to have double governance. The next item on the agenda is G4.3, monthly financial statements for the period ending the 30th of September 2025. And back to you, Kim.
Thank you. I'm pleased to present the monthly financial statements for the period ending 30th of September 2025. For this report, 25% of the financial year has passed and we're tracking as expected toward our forecast $1.5 million surplus by year end, despite a current unfavourable variance of $8.5 million. As per our previous reports, this is expected to improve as rates, grants and dividends are received later in the year. So far, $57.6 million in revenue has been collected, which is slightly below target, while expenditure is on track at $66.1 million. Our cash position remains strong with $133.4 million in cash, $48 million of which is invested in term deposits. Rates are due on the 22nd of October, and outstanding rates are slightly lower than last year, with many households paying in advance. Capital expenditure report remains as per last month due to timing. Spend sits at $19.9 million or 19% of the annual budget, with roads and sewerage being the largest areas of investment. In terms of financial sustainability, our ratios show a strong cash position and good asset management. While the operating surplus ratio is currently negative, this is expected to recover later in the year. Overall, the financial position is stable and we remain on track to meet our budget targets.
Thank you, Kim. Questions, please? Councillor Wagner.
Yeah, just a couple of things. I had a look at our legal expenses are tracking to be higher than we had anticipated. Is that going to be an issue?
I'd like to say no. We will address anything that we need to in the upcoming forecast so that we can make sure that our expenditure accurately reflects what we anticipate spending. But hopefully some of those things are coming to an end and we don't continue to spend as much.
25%, which is way higher than quite a lot of money. The other thing, I know some of those we can't really get around. The other thing is the interest there. I know that we're probably tracking a little bit higher than what we expected, but I'm just wondering, with interest rates actually coming down, have we got something in place to negate that to some degree?
We do consistently revisit our investments and where our money sits so that we can capitalise and adjust as things change. So yes, we are constantly monitoring what's happening and adjusting where we need to.
We don't expect there'll be any significant changes?
Not at this point, no.
Awesome. Thank you.
Any further questions? No further questions. Can I have a mover for the officer's recommendation, please? Thank you, Councillor Holzheimer. Councillor Cameron, all in favour? Motion's carried. The next item on the agenda is G4.4, and it's a cancellation of the general meeting for the 21st of October 25. Back to you, Kim.
This report seeks Council's approval to cancel the general meeting scheduled for Tuesday 21st of October 2025. The meeting falls during a time when several councillors will be attending other commitments which will impact attendance. Given this, it is proposed that the meeting be cancelled. There's no identified risks associated with the cancellation. The financial reporting requirement has been addressed today with the report just presented. If any urgent matters did arise between now and the next scheduled meeting on 4th of November, a special meeting of council can be called to address them if required.
Thank you, Councillor Churchill. Second, yeah, ask a question, absolutely.
Just how many councillors will be left here?
We will have a question.
It's totally up to council.
I'm happy to go
5. And then if you get a conflict of interest, you get a split decision. You only got to give one COI, and next minute the council can't make decisions, depending on what's on the agenda. Yeah, I understand exactly where you're coming from, because at the end of the day, 5 is 5. It only just moves it all to the next one. And my other pertinent point would be there's nothing worse than actually deferring a matter that the officers have put together on the basis of whatever it might be.
Okay.
Any further questions, comments? Move, Councillor Churchill. I need a seconder, please. Second, Councillor Davis. All in favour? Motion's carried. Thank you, Kim. G 4.5 is council appointment to the Local Government Association of Queensland Energy and Resource Advisory Group. Back to you, Lisa.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. As previously mentioned by Councillor McClintock, LGAQ has formed a new advisory group and an expression of interest was undertaken, which we have responded to. So seeking Council's endorsement of a councillor representative through Councillor McClintock on the Queensland Energy and Resources Advisory Group.
Any questions, councillors? Councillor Holmes, a question or you'll move?
Oh no, I'm happy to move, but I also have a question. So I joined the LGAQ's advisory group for circular economy and waste when we first started this term, and it didn't come to a general meeting. So I'm curious as to why this one has come to a general meeting for endorsement.
I asked the same question.
It's potentially an omission on our part, one that we may not have been aware of. So all of our appointments to advisory groups we do regularise through a resolution. So it's probably an oversight on our part. We're happy to address that.
Okay, cool. I was just curious as to...
I asked the exact same question because I don't believe a council resolution is necessary, but I will take it on the governance team that it is, so I'm going to go with it.
There's no policy, but it's our custom and practice. When a new council comes in, we have resolutions for appointments to all of those representative areas. So
We did it at one of the first meetings.
we did. Yes. So what I'm hearing Councillor Holzheimer say is this one was formed after that. Is that correct? Was it after?
And there was conversation.
So we haven't. So they
about
might not have come through the officer channels. They might have been through councillor channels potentially. We might have missed it.
So did we change the pest management group ones when they changed?
Yes, we did. Yeah.
It's just for the advisory.
We can address that, Councillor Holzheimer.
Low road sometimes. So happy to move the officer's recommendation for Councillor McClintock.
Thank you. And a seconder, please.
So
Sorry?
I thought it was someone that moved it, but if it wasn't.
No?
Seconded by Councillor McClintock.
No, it's not. Seconded by Councillor Churchill.
Yeah,
Thank
happy to. Yeah,
Excellent. All in favour?
Go get them, Councillor McClintock.
So I thought I heard. Excellent.
Well, that's probably what I thought.
Yeah. G 4.6 is conference attendance at the Asia Pacific Hydrogen Summit in Sydney. Over to you, Lisa.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This is one of the gatherings that we attend regularly, the Asia Pacific Hydrogen Summit. This year it's being held in Sydney and seeking whether council would like to endorse a councillor to attend and represent council at this important summit.
Is there a speaking opportunity on that, or is it just attending the summit?
No. This is
Yep. Happy to attend? I can't attend, sorry.
If you want me to attend, yes.
Yeah. Councillor
Yeah,
McClintock?
I'm happy to nominate Councillor Muscat.
Yes. Okay, move Councillor McClintock, second, and Councillor Holzheimer, the Deputy Mayor attend.
Yep.
Any further questions or comments?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I can't go, otherwise I would. It's very important to attend this. I believe Christy will be attending as
That's what
well.
I was looking for. You're involved in
Yes.
the same.
And there might be a speaking opportunity yet once we have
Right.
this resolution approved and we let them know we're attending. They certainly would love to hear what's happening in Gladstone, no doubt. All in favour? It's carried as well. Thank you. And the next one is G4.7, conference attendance at the National Local Roads and Transport Congress.
Thank you, Mr
Do I
Mayor.
have a conflict in this?
I don't believe so. The Mayor doesn't have a conflict in our attendance at the ALGA conference.
If it's ALGA, then potentially yes. We have declared conflicts in relation to LGAQ.
Okay, sorry, I should have declared it at the beginning of the meeting. It's a little bit bizarre that the national president has to declare a conflict when we're choosing delegates to attend a conference that I'm already attending, but
Just for the record, it's due to the financial income
Yeah.
that it could earn.
yeah. Okay, I might just leave the room then. Do I need to? Yeah, I declare that I'm the president of the Australian Local Government Association who's hosting this conference. And obviously, if council sends more than whatever it's budgeted for, then that could be an increase to ALGA's budget, which is actually owned by local governments in the country. I'll just declare a conflict and hand over the Deputy Mayor.
I'll just go there or... Okay. Okay, so do we have, can we start the discussions? So would anyone want to then?
Sorry, I probably hadn't finished speaking.
Yeah.
Sorry, when the Mayor left, if there's any more
Yes.
information, this is an annual conference that the Australian Local Government Association puts on to do with local roads, transport and infrastructure. The location changes every year. This year it's in Victoria. Historically, council has had representation at this conference.
Yes, that's right. So I think we budgeted for a couple of people to go. I guess the budget is also part of an overall budget for conferences and council attendance to conferences and other opportunities. So we have two spots, unless someone wants to.
I had expressed my interest to attend the National Local Roads Transport Infrastructure Congress, but I withdrew my expression of interest as I'm sure that there are other councillors that need to attend. I've attended on a number of occasions and it's extremely worthy and beneficial to this council and to our community that we have representatives there. Yep.
Thank you, Councillor Churchill. Councillor Holzheimer and then Councillor Wagner.
No, I just wanted to say that I'm in the same boat there, that I had expressed an interest, but I have withdrawn, and I do think that we should be attending. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wagner. Councillor Holzheimer.
So I know that I don't actually sit on any of the roads committees. However, I would like to go to this conference. I believe that based on the fact that some of the biggest decisions we make in budget are about roads infrastructure, and that there's a massive benefit to me actually having more exposure in this space to be able to be a part of the discussion. So, and to learn more in this space as well. So I would like to be able to put my name forward.
Okay, so can I please go to Councillor McClintock?
Yeah, I mean, with Councillor Wagner, I sit in the TAG committee, but as well as the chair of the RRTG, the Regional Roads Transport Group. I would really like to attend. It would very much help what I do.
I'm happy to move that Councillor McClintock and Councillor Holzheimer be our appointed elected representatives to attend. Unless there's someone else wanting to come forward, I'm happy
Okay,
to.
can I get a seconder for that motion? Councillor Cameron, is there anyone else that want to speak to this? Okay, I'll put that Councillor Holzheimer and Councillor McClintock are the attendees for the National Local Roads Congress. All in favour? Anyone against? Okay, motion's carried. Thank you. And we will invite the Mayor back in.
We are there in a great old time.
It's gone for a jog across the paddock, climbing a tree.
Like chasing the birds.
Chasing. So I'm looking for birds.
Here we are. All right. Thank you, councillors. The next item on the agenda is councillor reports. Councillor Davis.
Thank you. First off, I would like to do a report on the Reef Guardian Council executive meeting that I attended in August in Yeppoon and Rockhampton. I'd like to give a big thank you to Livingston and Rockhampton councils for hosting this year's meeting and field trips. It was great to see some of the amazing coastal ecosystems in Livingston and to hear about the work being done to protect them. One standout was Butterfly Day, a fantastic community event where families came together to learn about the importance of looking after their natural areas and resources. It was a great example of how revegetation and reducing sediment runoff can help protect the reef. We also welcome Fraser Coast Council to the Reef Guardian program. That brings us to 21 councils involved, covering over 76% of the Great Barrier Reef catchment and representing around 1.2 million people. Reef Guardian councils play a huge role in looking after the reef and helping deliver the Reef 2050 plan, and it was exciting to hear about what other councils have been up to. For example, Isaac Council has been working to protect the turtle nesting area sites and endangered coastal vines, while also educating the community about turtle compensation. They also restored a wetland, which has helped both the local economy and their water quality. Bundaberg Council has tackled marine debris head-on, removing 28 tonnes of rubbish from their waterways in just 54 days. They're also focusing on illegal dumping and public education. Rockhampton Council has installed solar panels on their airport terminal, which is their second largest energy user, which is helping cut emissions and save money for their ratepayers. And Gladstone Council, of course us, has completed energy audits across our assets and found ways to reduce energy use, which benefits both the environment and the reef. All of these projects have been supported by the Reef Guardian grants, helping councils reduce emission, manage waste and restore habitats. It is a really important program and we are proud to be part of it. Hopefully we'll keep seeing strong results and positive change for our reef and communities for future generations and reduction to our footprint on the environment. I also attended the Australian Cruise Ship Conference. The conference was held in Fremantle, WA on the 3rd, 4th and 5th of September, which I attended on behalf of Council and a board member of GAPDL. Our aim in attending the conference was to initiate discussions with cruise companies and shore excursion providers around Gladstone being once again a destination on some of their itineraries as we were pre-COVID. The conference was a great opportunity to network with both cruise companies and shore excursion providers. Gladstone as a destination has a reputation of being an industrial city, which with the Australian cruise market and therefore a little harder to sell. However, we have a great opportunity to change that perception as well as opening up more opportunities to the international markets. One thing Gladstone has done well and that we can leverage off is that our Gladstone Port Corporation has provided us with world-class facilities for the cruise ships to be able to tie alongside directly at our port, with what the cruise companies refer to as walk-off facilities, which is a big advantage for our region. It was also great to hear that those who have previously visited Gladstone as a cruise destination were very impressed with what the region has delivered and was beyond expectations. After previously tendering for the cruise ship conference to be held in Gladstone, which Brisbane will be hosting next year in 2026, feedback from the Cruise Ship Association was we were once again encouraged to tender for the future conference to be held in Gladstone around 2028. If we are successful in hosting the conference, it would be a great opportunity to showcase our region to a much greater potential audience in the cruise industry, both in Australia and internationally. In the meantime, and in collaboration with GAPDL and the Gladstone Port Corporation, we can now work with our tourism providers to make Gladstone a must-visit destination for the cruise market. There is work to be done, but I know the Gladstone region is up to the challenge and I'm very proud of what the region has to offer. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Davis. Councillor Wagner.
Yeah, just a couple of things. I attended the Welcome to Gladstone morning tea at the Tondoon Botanic Gardens week before last, I think it was. And some of the things that are happening are amazing. The bonsai house is opening on the 26th of October. It's going to be more of a bit like what the Botanic Gardens is all about, you know, germinating and managing and contributing to the benefit of plants right across Australia. So that's coming up. But there's also a Prepare for Disaster season happening at Tondoon Gardens, which is coming up as well. So I encourage people to get to that The welcome to Gladstone Wellington was amazing. I just want to say thank you to all the staff that were involved. Their not-for-profit house were there too to sort of help the new residents. What I did witness there was people actually starting to interact, and some people come there just to meet other people too, new people, and I thought that was an amazing thing too. So I just want to say thank you to all the staff who have been involved in that.
Thank you. Councillor Churchill.
Oh, yeah, thank you. If I could just express my gratitude and greatest appreciation to this council and the community and my colleagues for your continued support for the National Police Remembrance Day service, which was held last week on the 29th of September. In light of saying that, is a day, as we always do for all of our Remembrance Day services. This one runs very raw when you see all the various community organisations that rallied together to understand the importance of making our communities safe. And I suppose as the president of the Queensland Retired Police Association is understanding that some police officers do pay the ultimate sacrifice, sadly, in what's probably known as a civil war in their terminology that occurs from time to time. But if I could just make reference that on the day of the service, it's an opportunity to not forget and we remember and honour the police officers who have been killed in the line of duty. Sadly, some. I think history will show there's been many over the years, and also to remember and honour police officers whose deaths did not occur as a consequence of their own duty, because as some of you would know, the scars are not visible. And it's also, and just an extract was, it prompts the painful and confronting memories and emotions for many people. In particular, it's still raw with the police officers that were murdered at Wyambilla as such. And even more recently, the two Victorian colleagues from Bororen, sadly, in their line of duty. But we reach out to the family and the friends and the colleagues of those who have to reflect back each time. But I just express that greatest appreciation that we continue to support that. And I thank Councillors Wagner, Councillor Cameron, Councillor McClintock for helping to lay the wreath at the church that they were able to attend. I know others are busy, but I'm sure it would have been in the back of your mind to remember. So, but thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Churchill.
And I've got another little one here, if you wouldn't mind. Absolutely. I've been watching out through the door of the Bororen Hall here today, a resident proudly flying their Australian flag. Have you seen it? Please, I think that's absolutely fantastic to see that level of, I suppose, they must have known there must have been a meeting on today. Anyway, Bororen Hall Committee and the Bororen Progress Association are hosting a Bororen community show, and it'll be in this hall right here on Saturday the 2nd of November at 1:30 p.m. and they'll have afternoon tea and they'll have raffles, and it's a good fundraiser for them, and a good Gladstone region bandstand will be there to help them raise as much funds as they possibly can to make sure that community halls like this continue to remain sustainable with the strength of local volunteers. So we thank those people of Bororen.
Thank you. Any further councillor reports? No further council reports. We have no urgent business. We do have two notices of motion. And the first one is the one that I've put to council, which is G7.1, the restriction of activities at the SES grounds at 1770. I think the notice of motion speaks for itself, but and I'm happy to move. Deputy Mayor is happy to second. Councillors have questions to me or officers? Yes, Councillor Davis, then Holzheimer.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask a quick question. With the notice of motion, does that then affect the current lease, I suppose?
The way it's worded is that any future events that would take place outside of what's already granted would be refused, and that doesn't include the markets, which would take place outside the actual nesting grounds. But in terms of the current event that's happening there, they do have a lease with council, but I think after events of the last few weeks, they're very keen to look at moving that to June, July, around NAIDOC week. So that's a separate issue, but this stops any future activities, events, venue hires on the actual breeding ground.
After the lease.
No, it's effective immediately for anything else, and the current lease that's, if it lease is the right word, is in place. That's a decision for DETSI, council at the time and the organisers, but like I've said, we've been in conversation with the organisers for a while now, and I think after events of the last few weeks, not just the weekend, that June, July might be a nice time for them to host that. This is about all future events to protect the nesting ground of the rainbow bee-eater.
Definitely in favour, thank you.
Just if I could, Mr Mayor, confirm it's not a lease, it's an event hire agreement.
Yeah.
So it allows them to, it's our permission for them to go and get all of the other consents and approvals they need to obtain to hold the event there.
Yeah.
And it does include provisions in there around the bee-eater.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask, Dave?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, in terms of our agreement though, does it sort of designate a time of year or?
Yeah, there's local law approvals that have been given,
Okay.
and that is for specific dates.
Yeah, this notice of motion will exclude events, activities or venue hire bookings from the 1st of August to the 31st of January each year. I've got a few more questions coming. Councillor Holzheimer, Churchill and McClintock.
I suppose mine really isn't a question. I appreciate the notice of motion that's been put forward and the recognition of the importance of the bee-eaters, the rainbow bee-eaters, to that SES grounds, and our commitment to the protection of those animals and to working with community to successfully run events in that space as well. So thanks.
Yeah, we run hugely successful events. When I say we, I mean the community, in terms of the Agnes Blues Roots and Rock Festival and the 1770 Festival. And the Cultural Connection Immersions Festival has been very successful. But I think now the conversation around June, July is very timely. Councillor Churchill and McClintock.
Yeah, thank you. Having attended a community rally and then wanting to attend the festival on the weekend, it's probably better late than never. Than we find ourselves in this position, or more so predicament that we've got now. Rather than going into the intricacies of what will unfold hereafter with whatever's in place or whatever has been put in place, and for your notice of motion, I'd just like to get an understanding if there's a sunset clause in amongst this, because I understand the intent of the notice of motion for that period of time, 1st of August, 31st of January each year. I'm not an expert, and I don't claim to be an expert, even though I admire birds, but if those dates are synonymous with the colony occupying the area, then we've got the ability to be able to cover it. But I haven't heard any professor or expert come to me and say that, other than what's on Dr. Google, that it's explicit. My concern that I have is if we've got no sunset clause on this, this is thus forever and a day of a major community infrastructure that's been put there for a variety of community use. And I understand the intent of the notice of motion, but that effectively means that that whole area becomes redundant or becomes unoccupied for a 6-month period. For a 6-month period, which means we don't do anything there, maintenance, mowing, or whatever the case might be. Is that the intent of the motion as well? The intent of the motion remains redundant for 6 months of the year.
Well, redundant's an interesting word. It remains unable to be have events or activities or the place to be hired as a venue for activities that would be detrimental. And in the officer's commentary, That's where the time has come from. It says the SS grounds is a known breeding ground for rainbow bee-eaters from August through to
But
January.
we can still care for it, and can we use it for an emergency landing for Capricorn helicopter rescue?
Yes.
If there's evacuations required, it's the what if that arises as a latter date as a result of it. I'm happy to support your notice of motion, but I just want to be comfortable
If the SES
that we don't end up having that's a no-go zone for anybody but anybody during that period of time.
It's a no-go zone for exactly what it says, for permits for events, activities or venue hire bookings. If the SES need to land or someone needs to land a helicopter on that ground, that is the priority, and they will.
I know there's an airstrip in close proximity
that is,
they could probably use.
and that's up to the pilot, and B, the medical professionals. It certainly isn't us. And like you said, you're not a bird expert, neither am I. This is why we've always believed that this was the responsibility of DETSI, Department of Environment, Tourism, Science, who will be, I would understand, to be the experts in wildlife management. But if a helicopter needed to land on that ground for whatever reason, if they couldn't land somewhere else, or the medical professionals or the pilots determined that was the safest ground, then that's where they would land. This is not about that. This is only about hosting events, activities or venue hire bookings.
Okay, then I am an ornithophile, but I'm not a ornithophile, which is bird watchers. So can I come back to my question?
Yeah.
There's no intent of having any sunset clause in this?
No.
Whatever?
And the reason being is...
So there's no statute of limitations, it's forever?
No, well, you've been on council long enough to know, Councillor Churchill, that a council at any time can overturn this decision. So if at some point the rainbow bees determine that they don't want to nest there anymore, and council believes that they could have events, activities or venue hire bookings at this place because it's not detrimental to the bird nesting season, then that council could make that decision. So it's...
Yeah, I'm well aware of the process.
So why are you asking the question?
The intent appropriately is that at some stage between now and whenever, we need to listen to what the community is saying now in relation to not only protecting the colony, but making sure that that community facility can be made available somehow. I'm not sure. Anyway.
It is made available outside.
Yeah,
Well, it depends if this is passed today. If the council want to leave that facility open for people to hire for events and activities, then don't vote for this notice of motion.
Oh, no, I'm happy to protect the colony. I don't have any problems with that.
You can't have a cake and eat it.
I do.
Well, you can't.
I do have a steak and I eat it regularly. But I think in this circumstance, it's going to find its way back to this council at some stage. Not necessarily this year, but maybe perhaps during the term of this council, into what we can do in the future.
I believe what we can do in the future is host events outside the breeding season, and then everyone will be happy. We can have events that people want to host, including the event that was on the weekend, and other events that have been successful at that site, and protect the rainbow bee at a nesting site. It was...
No, as I said, better late than never. This is something we should have been talking about 5 years ago. But anyway, I'll rest my case.
No, well, 5 years ago we did talk about it, and it was agreed with the Department of Environment, Science, Tourism and Innovation, I think.
Yeah, it was only a small colony.
That was very small, and it's grown over the years, and there's been lots of stuff happen in the last few weeks that have made it very difficult. Councillor McClintock.
Yeah, my question was more in relation to the when we were down at the community conversation recently, there was conversation about private hires had a blackout period. We talked recently about the dog off leash having a blackout period. Now we're discussing a rental, a hire agreement blackout period. Is there any other things that happen there that we need to be considering is my first question, because that's already 3 different kind of ways people can get into those grounds and do things. And the second question is, do all of those dates align between the different things that we've got blackout periods for, to make it clear?
I might have to get an officer to answer that one. The blackout period I'm thinking you're talking about for the dogs is on beaches.
No, on the SES grounds as well.
Okay, I don't know if it's the same time.
It does align.
It does align?
Yeah, off leash.
It aligns to the period. So they have to be on leash during this.
Correct. And then so that date's aligned. That was the first question. The second one is they were discussing something about you can't have a daily hire or something, no one can go and have an event down there, but then these hire agreements were separate to that, was the conversation. There was already a blackout in I don't know, it was very confusing to me. And I just want to make sure that we've covered all our bases as far as this, because I want to make sure that we're not back here again with, oh yeah, but you can have a line dancing competition because it's not the same thing.
This resolution would cover all
Right.
events or activities that we grant a permit or approval for.
Excellent. And the dates align. Happy.
They definitely do. That's fantastic. Councillor Wagner.
Just thinking aloud and what Councillor McClintock said there, if there are all these, challenges and the birds to, I suppose, expand in that area, or they change their migratory period that they come, whatever, climate change, whatever, I know that we can change it, but have we actually had the conversation whether we just let it re-veg and leave it as is and not use it anymore?
Not use it for the Blues, Roots and Rock Festival and the 1770 Festival.
Well, I mean, it's clear that the community, they're very concerned about the birds and...
Well, can we have that conversation another day? I don't know.
That's what I said, it's going to find its way back.
Yeah. All right, let's do that.
Yeah, that's a bigger question. Like, the reason this is on the agenda is because that's when they're breeding. For the rest of the year, there has been no issue. There's only been an issue at this time of year, and it's gotten a bigger issue as the birds have increased. And you're right, maybe in 2 or 3 years' time, they might, I don't know, I'm going to say they might nest further, but I'm assuming they don't.
Well,
but I'm not a bird expert, never have
I
been.
have I've been liaising with an expert in this, and I know that we can go on to Dr. Google and find when they migrate and what have you, but there is a lot of contention over when they do and don't. So I'm just thinking, okay, what have we based this closure on? Like, look, I'm happy to support it, but are we confident that this is the period that we do need to be closing it? Now, I think this is a good start, yes, but then if we're losing the park we're maintaining for 6 months, I think that question needs to be asked whether or not this is the ideal location. But I'm happy to support this particular motion.
Good. I would take it from the dates have no doubt, not just because they've been presented by an officer who would have done the research, but also based on previous examples of previous years of when they've started nesting and when they've stopped nesting. So I'm confident with the date for now. Doesn't mean the dates won't change. You just got to look at magpies. They're starting to attack you a lot earlier. So dates change.
I understand where you're coming from. My question would be, when is a nest not a nest?
That's a very good question. I hope you can find that out for us.
Not a nest, no.
I'll task you to get that answer, Councillor Churchill. Deputy Mayor.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think there is the time period, it's in line with all the other decisions we made in relation to other local laws, including the dogs on leash requirement for those dates. So this is very much in line with that. We already acknowledged in the past that those are the dates that we're looking at the time. So this is only a reflection, this motion is only a reflection of those things that we have already identified. So, and not just in the dog off leash situation, but also in the requirement to have this festival or other events that were happening or might be happening at this time, to have an environmental plan that manages the species that might be found there. So I see this as something that the community wanted us to act on, and I thank the mayor for doing that. So that's why I like to second the motion. And then, of course, it will come back here, the same as other local laws come here every other time somebody changes, not just animals, but humans and other things that change around.
I've no doubt it'll be reviewed at some point, because, like what has been said, they may not nest there in 5 or 10 years' time. They may increase, they may decrease, we just don't know. But this sends a clear message to the community and organisers of future events that this event... Oh, yeah, we started on them. Okay, any further questions or comments? Let's move by myself, seconded by the Deputy Mayor. All in favour? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you. That's the last item on the agenda except for a confidential item. So I'll ask for a mover to move into confidential, please. Oh, sorry, I better say why. In accordance with the Local Government Regulation 2012, Section 25(4)J, it is proposed to close the meeting to discuss one confidential business item that the meeting be closed in accordance with the item I just said, to discuss a strategic land acquisition from Clava Limited, as the notice of motion will discuss negotiations related to a commercial matter involving the local government for which a public discussion would likely prejudice the interests of the local government. Moved. Thank you, Councillor Davis. Seconded, Councillor Holzheimer. All in favour? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we are in confidential items G 8.1, notice of motion, strategic acquisition of land from Clava Limited, and the notice of motion was by Councillor Holzheimer. Can I go to you, Councillor Holzheimer?
Yeah, I would like to move the motion that we commence negotiations with Clava Limited for the purchase of land compromising of the Gladstone Golf Course, described as the four lots specified in the report, with the report to be provided to Council outlining the proposed purchase terms prior to entering into any contract, please.
Can I have a seconder for that motion? Councillor McClintock? And can I go into any discussions? Any? Councillor Patrick, yeah?
Yeah, I would like to propose an amendment to Councillor Holzheimer's motion. I'd like to propose a word change, and it would read that the Chief Executive Officer commence discussions with Clava Limited to explore the purchase of land comprising Gladstone Golf Club, described as Lot 2, RPA 859452, and Lot 127, CTN 2158, Lot 2, RP613530, and Lot 128, SP 148359, with a report to provide to Council outlining the proposed purchase terms prior to entering into any contract.
Okay, Councillor Holzheimer, are you prepared to accept that amendment?
Yeah, happy to accept that amendment.
And seconder, Councillor McClintock. So I will be okay to put that to the vote.
I won't be voting, but do you need a seconder for the amendment?
I do need a seconder for the amendment.
Oh, thank you, sorry.
He's accepted the amendment as a seconder of the original motion. So considering that the Mayor won't be voting as his previous conflict of interest that he declared, can I put the amended motion to all of us? All in favour? Anyone against? Right.
And can I call for a division, please?
And Councillor Davis would like to call a division. So all in favour? All against? Rachel? All good? Thank you very much. And I will
The amendment now becomes the motion.
The amendment becomes a motion?
Yes.
You've got to put it again.
Okay, so can I put the amended motion, which was proposed by Councillor Patrick?
Amendment.
I need a seconder for that amendment. Councillor Churchill, all in favour? Against? And can we also call a division which was the same as before? Have you got that, Rachel? Okay, wonderful, thank you. That amendment was carried, and I will hand it back to the Mayor to close the meeting.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. There's no more items on the agenda. I close the meeting at 1:47 p.m. and thank you for your attendance.